Colton looked me dead in the eye through that video call and said, "Look, Brady, if you don't like the new policies, you can just resign and find somewhere that appreciates legacy thinking." That's when I knew this 29-year-old nepotism hire had just made the biggest mistake of his short corporate life. My name is Brady Walsh. I'm 48 years old, and I thought I'd seen every power play in the defense contracting world. 12 years Air Force, then 20 years working my way up from junior systems analyst to senior cybersecurity engineer at Titan Defense Solutions here in Denver. Built AI threat detection systems that kept our infrastructure safe from foreign hackers. Designed adaptive neural networks that could identify zero-day exploits faster than human analysts could blink. My latest creation used machine learning algorithms to predict attack patterns 72 hours before they manifested. But Colton Pierce, VP of Innovation and nephew of our CEO, Richard Pierce, had other plans for my career. It started that Monday morning when he called the all-hands meeting. Colton was broadcasting from the corporate office in Colorado Springs, that permanent smirk on his face, like someone who thought a Wharton MBA counted as real-world experience. Hair too perfect for someone supposedly responsible for national security contracts. "We're implementing operational consolidation for next-generation efficiency," he announced, clicking to a slide that looked like it was designed by a marketing intern. "Full-time on-site collaboration starts next week. No exceptions." People stared at their screens. I felt my jaw tighten because for 14 months straight, my Guardian AI security system had exceeded every Department of Homeland Security benchmark they'd thrown at us. The system could process 50,000 potential threats per second, categorize them by severity level, and automatically deploy countermeasures without human intervention. And I did most of that development work from my home office, same place where I'd been stationed since my wife Lisa started her chemotherapy treatments. But apparently results mattered less than Colton's need to justify his corner office. Then came the real punch to the gut. All research and development prototypes, plus any classified development work, must be logged in our centralized security repository. Full source files, technical documentation, access credentials. My office will review all intellectual property for patent consolidation and revenue optimization. That's when my Air Force training kicked in. 20 years of corporate life. But some instincts never fade. I recognized a hostile takeover when I saw one. This wasn't about security compliance. This was theft with a paper trail. "Colton," I said, unmuting my microphone with the calm I'd learned diffusing situations in Iraq. "Does this policy apply to projects developed outside standard contract parameters?" He actually smiled wider. "Brady, anything relevant to Titan Defense's strategic roadmap falls under company purview. Even work done with no company equipment, time, or personnel. Honestly, your AI stuff is probably too complex for our current initiatives anyway." He leaned back in his chair like he was explaining basic math to a child. "Once it's integrated into our systems, it becomes company property. That's how defense contracting works." The conference call went silent. Even Sean Murphy, my 26-year-old mentee who still asks me how to configure firewall protocols, stopped typing. I'd been working with Sean for 2 years, teaching him everything from basic network security to advanced threat modeling. Good kid, sharp mind, but still learning the difference between textbook theory and real-world application. Colton had just admitted on a recorded company call that he planned to steal independent work and claim it as corporate property. And me? I smiled back at that camera. "Thanks for clarifying the exit strategy, Colton." I closed my laptop, unplugged my secure terminal, and stood up from my desk. 20 years of corporate politics had taught me when to fight and when to execute a strategic withdrawal. This was definitely execution time. I walked out of that building like I was heading to Home Depot for weekend supplies. No drama, no shouting, just a cardboard box in my arms and the 1,000-yard stare I'd perfected during my military service. Colleagues whispered as I passed. Sean caught up to me at the elevator, his face pale, like someone processing a system crash. "Brady, what's happening? Where are you going?" I looked at him steadily. "Stay, observe, document everything. And Sean, remember what I taught you about defensive programming. Always build in backdoors for legitimate access. That's right. Sometimes the best security measure is knowing when and how to cut off unauthorized users." The elevator doors closed before he could fully process what I meant. Outside, Denver's October air hit me like a wall, but I felt cooler than I had in months. I loaded my personal items into my Silverado's toolbox, right next to a pre-sealed envelope I'd prepared weeks ago. The address label read Colonel Andrew Hayes, Department of Defense Inspector General's office. Inside that envelope wasn't a resignation letter. It was documentation proving that the Guardian AI protocol Colton's team was preparing for the Air Force contract belonged to me. Not morally, not theoretically, but legally and federally mine. 47 pages of technical specifications, algorithm flowcharts, and federal filing confirmations that would make Pentagon lawyers proud. See, I'd been building it for the past 14 months, entirely outside my Titan defense contract scope. Nights, weekends, my own hardware, my own funding, every line of code timestamped and witnessed, every development milestone documented with the precision they'd taught me in the Air Force. The core neural network architecture was revolutionary, combining predictive analytics with behavioral pattern recognition in ways that traditional cybersecurity couldn't match. Colton thought he could intimidate me into surrender, that I'd slink away like a good little employee with bruised feelings and half-finished LinkedIn updates. But Colton had never served in the military. He'd never learned that the most dangerous enemy is the one who's had time to prepare for battle while you're still figuring out there's a war. I drove straight to the downtown post office and hand-delivered that envelope to Federal Mail. White, standard issue, sealed with the kind of attention to detail that had kept me alive in hostile territory and would now keep Colton awake at night. Then I called Jason Rodriguez, my old college buddy who'd transitioned from JAG officer to intellectual property attorney. We'd served together briefly at Ramstein Air Base back when he was still figuring out whether he wanted to be a career military lawyer or jump to civilian practice. Jason, it's Brady. Time to activate the contingency plan. Roger that. How bad did they step in it? Colton just claimed ownership of classified protocols on a recorded company call. Long pause. Jesus, Brady. He really doesn't know who he's messing with, does he? Not yet, but he's about to get a federal education. 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Jason's office while he reviewed documentation that would make Pentagon lawyers proud. Development logs, witness statements, federal filing confirmations, all proving my AI protocols existed months before Colton ever knew they were possible. The technical specifications alone filled 3 binders, complete with algorithmic flowcharts showing how my Guardian system could identify advanced persistent threats through behavioral analysis rather than simple signature matching. Brady, Jason said, setting down the last folder, this isn't just airtight, this is submarine-grade sealed. Good. Because Colton's about to discover that stealing from an Air Force veteran with security clearance isn't a career move. It's a career-ending move. Jason pulled out a timeline chart he'd prepared. Let's walk through this. Your first code commit predates Colton's arrival at Titan Defense by 6 months. Your federal filing predates their Fortress project announcement by 8 weeks. Every algorithm is documented with timestamps showing independent development. What about the machine learning models? Even better. Your neural network training data came from publicly available threat databases that you access through your personal security clearance. No company resources involved. Colton can't claim ownership of something that was built entirely outside their ecosystem. I smiled. That's the plan. The next morning, I didn't show up for work. Instead, I was sitting in a downtown diner at 6 a.m., sketching AI decision trees on napkins, while a waitress named Jennifer Brooks kept my coffee cup full without asking. This wasn't the first time I'd done this. The original concept for my Guardian AI protocol was born in the same booth 14 months ago, right next to a half-eaten stack of pancakes, and the realization that Titan Defense was heading for a management disaster. I'd seen Colton coming long before he officially arrived. Uncle Richard had been dropping hints about bringing fresh perspectives to legacy operations for months. Translation: some Wharton MBA kid was going to parachute in and start fixing things that weren't broken. So I'd started preparing. Every weekend for over a year, I'd been building something Colton couldn't steal because Colton would never know it existed. My personal laptop, my personal network, my personal time, zero connection to Titan defense systems. I called it Guardian Protocol because it protected data so quietly, even system administrators would miss it. The AI engine could learn from attack patterns in real time, adapting its defense strategies faster than human hackers could adjust their methods. The beautiful part? Colton's new intellectual property policy, designed to give executives more control, had actually created a legal loophole big enough to drive a tank through. In his rush to consolidate power, he'd specifically exempted employee-developed technology created without company resources during non-contracted hours. He probably thought that clause was meaningless. After all, Who develops military-grade AI security in their spare time? An Air Force veteran with 20 years of experience and a sick wife who needs insurance coverage. That's who. My phone buzzed with a text from Sean. Colton's asking where you are. What should I tell him? I typed back. Tell him I'm consulting federal documentation. Is everything okay? You seemed really calm yesterday. Sean, remember what I taught you about threat assessment? Identify the actual danger versus perceived danger. Right? Sometimes the biggest threat comes from people who don't realize they're outmatched. Document everything that happens in the next few days. You're going to see a masterclass in corporate consequences. 20 minutes later, Jason Rodriguez walked into the diner looking like a man who just reviewed evidence in a war crimes trial. He slid into the booth across from me and set a thick folder on the table. Brady, I've been practicing IP law for 12 years. I've never seen documentation this thorough. Air Force taught me to prepare for worst-case scenarios. Your worst-case scenario is about to become Colton's nightmare. Jason opened the folder. 3 provisional patents filed under the Defense Production Act, Guardian AI Engine, Adaptive Threat Response Protocol, and your Stealth Security System. All registered to Brady A. Walsh, private citizen. Timeline clean, cleaner than a jet engine. Your first code commit predates Colton's arrival at Titan Defense by 6 months. Your federal filing predates their Fortress project announcement by 8 weeks. But here's the really beautiful part. He pulled out another document. I did some digging on Colton's academic background. His Wharton thesis was on leveraging existing technology assets for competitive advantage. Basically, he wrote a paper on how to legally steal other people's work. So he's following his own playbook. Except he never learned the difference between academic theory and federal law. In his thesis, he assumes all employee innovations belong to the company by default. He never studied the Defense Production Act or classified technology statutes. I sipped my coffee and thought about the Guardian protocol sitting on my personal server. Every line of code legally protected and completely inaccessible to Titan Defense. Jason, what happens when they try to demonstrate Fortress publicly without my core protocols? System failure. Catastrophic, embarrassing, career-ending system failure. Your AI algorithms are integrated into every security layer.
Remove them and the entire framework collapses like a house of cards. And if they try to rebuild without my code, impossible.
Not without triggering federal compliance alerts. Your protocols are protected under classified technology statutes. Any attempt to access or reproduce them without authorization becomes a federal crime. Perfect. My phone rang. Lisa's name on the screen. Hey, sweetheart. How's the treatment going? Good day today. Doctor says my white cell counts are improving. Her voice sounded stronger than it had in weeks. Brady, Sean called the house looking for you. Said something about Colton being upset. Nothing to worry about, just some corporate politics. You didn't do anything crazy, did you? I looked across the table at Jason, who was organizing legal documents that would destroy Colton's career. Define crazy. Brady Walsh, what did you do? I protected our family's future, and I did it legally. Long pause. Should I be worried about Colton? No. About paying for Megan's college tuition? Also no. After I hung up, Jason leaned forward. Brady, there's something else. I've been tracking Titan Defense's contract obligations. They've got a demonstration scheduled for the Rocky Mountain Defense Summit in 2 weeks. Let me guess. Fortress is the star of the show, main attraction, DoD procurement officers, defense journalists, the works. Colton's betting his entire career on a successful public launch. How public? Live streamed to the entire defense industry. If Fortress fails during that demonstration, Colton's finished. Worse than finished. He'll be radioactive. No defense contractor will touch him after a failure that public. I sipped my coffee and thought about the Guardian protocol sitting on my personal server. Every line of code legally protected and completely inaccessible to Titan Defense. The AI's neural networks had been trained on over 2 million threat scenarios, each one classified and documented. Without access to those learning models, any cybersecurity system would be like a guard dog with no sense of smell. Jason, how long do we have before they realize they can't make Fortress work? Based on their development timeline, they'll hit the critical failure point in about 8 days, right when they're supposed to be finalizing the demonstration. And there's no way they can reverse engineer my work. Not without triggering federal compliance alerts. Your protocols are protected under classified technology statutes. Any attempt to access or reproduce them without authorization becomes a federal crime. So Colton has 2 choices: admit he stole classified technology, or watch his career implode on live TV. Those are his options. I stood up, left a $10 tip for Jennifer, and shook Jason's hand. Keep monitoring their progress. I want to know the exact moment they realize they're screwed. Where are you going? Home. To spend time with my wife and make sure our daughter's college fund is secure. Brady, aren't you curious about how this plays out? I smiled. Jason, I spent 12 years in the Air Force. I know the difference between being in a fighter jet and watching one crash from a safe distance. And which one are you doing now? I'm on the ground with a parachute. Colton's the one about to crater. As I walked to my truck, my phone buzzed with another message from Sean. Colton called an emergency engineering meeting. Says we need to accelerate Fortress timeline. Everyone's freaking out. I typed back, document everything. And Sean, remember what I taught you about system architecture. Sometimes the foundation is more important than the fancy features on top. What do you mean you'll figure it out? Trust your training. The next 8 days were going to be very interesting. Sean started sending me updates that read like a disaster movie script. Day 7, before the Rocky Mountain Defense Summit. Brady, Colton's pulling 18-hour days, brought in 4 outside contractors. Everyone's walking on eggshells. He keeps asking about your special algorithms, but nobody knows what he's talking about. Day 5, system integration is failing. The AI modules keep throwing error codes. Colton keeps saying just make it work, but the threat detection accuracy is only running at 23%. Normal systems hit 60% minimum. Day 3, they're talking about canceling the demo. Colton locked himself in the conference room for 3 hours today. I heard him on a call with his uncle. Lots of shouting. Day 1, Brady, this is bad, really bad. They brought in a team from MIT to try to fix the AI problems. Even they can't figure out why the system won't recognize advanced threats. It's like the brain is missing. I was sitting on my back porch that Thursday evening, watching Lisa tend her garden while Megan called from Colorado State to complain about her organic chemistry professor. Normal family stuff, the kind of evening Colton's corporate chaos couldn't touch. Dad, you sound different, Megan said during our call. More relaxed. Did something good happen at work? You could say that. How's your junior year going? Hard but good. That tuition bill is brutal though. I saw Mom looking at the numbers last night. Are we okay financially? I looked at Lisa, who was carefully watering her roses. The chemo had taken her hair, but she'd never lost that determined set to her shoulders when she was caring for something fragile. Don't worry about tuition, sweetheart. Your old man has it handled. You sure? I could always take out more student loans, Megan. By this time next month, your college expenses won't be a concern anymore. Focus on your studies. My phone rang after I hung up with Megan. Jason, Brady, they just filed an emergency patent application. For what? Fortress. They're claiming it as original Titan Defense intellectual property. I almost laughed. How's that going to work out for them? About as well as you'd expect. Federal Patent Office flagged it immediately. Conflict with existing protected technology, your technology. So what happens now? Their application gets rejected. But here's the interesting part. Filing a false patent claim on classified technology. That's not just civil court anymore, Brady. That's federal prosecution territory. Meaning Colton just upgraded this from a corporate dispute to a federal crime. The DoIT Inspector General's office is required to investigate any false claims involving classified defense technology. Friday morning, the day before the summit, I got a call from Colonel Andrew Hayes. We'd served together briefly at Bagram Airfield back when he was just another Air Force captain with opinions about proper maintenance protocols and respect for the chain of command. Brady, I've been reviewing your documentation. This is some impressive work. Thank you, sir. Also some impressive preparation. You've been planning this for a while, since the day I realized Colton was going to steal everything I'd built. Son, I've got to ask, did you leave any breadcrumbs? Any way for Titan Defense to make this work without your protocols? Sir, with respect, that would defeat the purpose. So when they try to demonstrate this system tomorrow, it'll fail. Completely in front of DoD procurement officers and defense journalists and their competitors and anyone else Colton invited to watch his moment of glory. Long pause. Brady, I've seen a lot of careers end in my time, but I've never seen someone dig their own grave this thoroughly. Colton did the digging, sir. I just handed him the shovel. Saturday morning, the Denver Convention Center. I wasn't supposed to be there, but I'd bought a general admission pass under the name B. Walsh, sometimes you need to watch your handiwork up close. Titan Defense had booth 312, center stage, directly across from two competitors showcasing next-generation military cybersecurity. The same field Fortress was supposedly going to revolutionize. Colton arrived in a tailored suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. He was flanked by Sean, two senior engineers, and a marketing specialist who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. They wheeled in branded displays, demonstration hardware, and a live demo setup loaded with what they thought was the Fortress system. I positioned myself 3 rows back, wearing a baseball cap, and the kind of anonymity that comes with being 48 and invisible to people like Colton. The morning sessions dragged on. Presentations about next-generation warfare, cybersecurity challenges, emerging threats, standard defense industry material. But everyone was waiting for the afternoon demonstrations. At 2 p.m., Colton took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, today, Titan Defense Solutions will demonstrate the future of military cybersecurity. Confident, polished, completely unaware that his career was about to crater in front of 400 industry professionals. Fortress represents a quantum leap in AI-powered security, real-time threat assessment, adaptive defense protocols, and autonomous response capabilities that will revolutionize how we protect our nation's digital infrastructure. The audience clapped politely. A few people took notes. Colton gestured toward the large screen behind him. Now we'll show you Fortress in action, live, real-time, against simulated advanced persistent threat attacks. The demonstration began. For about 30 seconds, it looked impressive. The interface loaded. System diagnostics ran. Numbers cascaded across the screen like something from a Hollywood movie. Then my Guardian protocol kicked in. Actually, it didn't kick in. That was the problem. The system tried to access core AI functions that weren't there anymore. Functions I'd removed when I left Titan Defense. Functions that were now protected under federal law and completely inaccessible to Colton's team. The screen froze. Error messages started popping up. Authentication failure. Core protocols not found. Neural network models unavailable. System integrity compromised. Sean, visible in the wings, lunged toward the demonstration laptop. His fingers flew across the keyboard, but there was nothing to fix. The AI engine wasn't malfunctioning, it simply didn't exist. I could see him running through the troubleshooting steps I'd taught him. But you can't troubleshoot missing code. Colton tried to stay composed. We're experiencing some technical difficulties, he announced, his voice slightly higher than normal. The audience shifted in their seats. A few people checked their phones. Someone in the press section started typing rapidly. Then, the backup systems failed, because there were no backup systems. Just empty code shells where my machine learning algorithms used to live. The threat detection accuracy meter on screen showed 8% worse than random guessing. Authentication error, announced the system's computerized voice, loud enough for the entire auditorium to hear, unable to locate security parameters. AI models corrupted or missing. Colton's face went pale. He looked toward Sean, who was shaking his head frantically. Looked toward the senior engineers who were staring at their laptops, like the screens might spontaneously generate missing neural networks. I'm sorry, Colton said finally. We'll need to postpone this demonstration. Scattered, uncomfortable applause. The kind you hear at Little League games when a kid strikes out badly. But the real show was just beginning. As Colton walked off the stage, a man in dress blues approached the Titan Defense booth. Colonel Hayes, carrying a manila envelope that contained everything Colton didn't know he didn't know. Mr. Pierce, Colonel Hayes announced. Colonel Andrew Hayes, Data Inspector General's office. We need to talk. Colton's expression shifted from embarrassment to confusion to the beginning of genuine fear. Is there somewhere private we can discuss your company's intellectual property claims? That's when Colton realized this wasn't just a failed demonstration. This was the beginning of the end. The conference room at the Denver Convention Center was small, windowless, and about to become the location where Colton Pierce's career died a very public death. I couldn't hear the conversation, but I didn't need to. I could see everything through the glass partition. Colonel Hayes spreading documents across the table. Colton's face shifting from confusion to denial to the pale realization that he'd stepped into something far bigger than a failed product demo. 20 minutes later, Colton emerged looking like a man who'd just received a terminal diagnosis from his doctor. Colonel Hayes followed, carrying himself with the bearing of someone who just completed an unpleasant but necessary duty. Sean intercepted Colton near the booth. I was close enough to catch fragments of their conversation. Sir, what did he want? Get everyone packed up. Now, what about the demonstration equipment? Leave it. We're done here. Within an hour, the Titan Defense booth was empty. Colton and his team disappeared like smoke, leaving behind branded banners and a demonstration rig that would never run Fortress again. My phone buzzed. Text from Jason. Federal warrant executed at Titan Defense headquarters 30 minutes ago. FBI seized all servers related to Fortress project. I smiled and headed for the parking garage. 3 days later, the news broke. Denver Business Journal ran the headline, Defense Contractor Under Federal Investigation for IP Theft. The article was brief but devastating. Anonymous sources confirmed that Titan Defense Solutions was being investigated for unauthorized use of classified cybersecurity technology. The company's security clearances were under review. Several major contracts had been suspended pending investigation. Colton's name appeared in paragraph 3. VP of Innovation Colton Pierce could not be reached for comment, could not be reached, in corporate speak that meant he'd been disappeared. No forwarding address, no transition period. Just gone. Sean called me that afternoon. Brady, can we meet? I need advice. We met at the same diner where Jason and I had planned Colton's downfall. Sean looked like he'd aged 5 years in 3 days. Colton's gone, he said, without preamble. Security cleared out his office yesterday. HR says he's pursuing other opportunities. What about the rest of the team? Scattered. Half the engineering department got laid off. The other half got reassigned to maintenance projects. Sean stirred his coffee absently. Brady, can I ask you something? Shoot. Did you know this was going to happen? I looked at him across the table. Good kid, smart, hardworking. Deserved better than getting caught in Colton's blast radius. Sean, what do you think? I think Colton messed with the wrong guy. And I think you've been teaching me lessons that went way beyond cybersecurity. What do you mean, the stuff about defensive programming, system architecture, documentation protocols? You weren't just teaching me technical skills. You were teaching me how to protect myself in this business. Smart kid. Sean, what are you going to do now? Keep my mouth shut and update my resume, but I wanted to ask, would you be a reference? Absolutely. You're going to do fine. Remember what I taught you about threat assessment. Identify the actual danger versus perceived danger, right? In this industry, the biggest threat usually comes from people who think they're smarter than they actually are. 6 weeks later, I was walking into Apex Cybersecurity headquarters in Austin, wearing a badge that read Brady A. Walsh, Vice President of Cybersecurity. The building was all reinforced glass and clean angles, designed to look like the future of defense technology. Apex hadn't just wanted my Guardian protocols. They wanted my methodology, my experience, my 20-year track record of building systems that kept Americans safe. They offered me my own department, a team of 15 hand-picked engineers, and a compensation package that made Lisa laugh when I told her the numbers. $290,000 base salary plus equity? That's more than we've made in the past 4 years combined, she said. Her latest cancer screening had come back clean. The treatment was working, and our insurance worries were over. It's enough to cover Megan's graduate school, too, if she wants it. What about Colton? Ever hear what happened to him? I pulled up the LinkedIn notification I'd received that morning. He's selling software solutions in Phoenix. Profile says former technology executive seeking new challenges in customer success. From VP of Innovation to software salesman. That's quite a fall. He chose his own landing. My first week at Apex, I implemented new intellectual property protection protocols. Every engineer got training on federal compliance requirements. Every project got triple documentation. Every line of code got time-stamped and archived. Why so thorough? Asked Dr. Patricia Klein, Apex's Chief Technology Officer. Because I've seen what happens when people try to steal what doesn't belong to them. The Titan Defense situation? She nodded. We heard about that. Word is someone really did their homework. Preparation beats improvisation every time. Military training, life training, 3 months into my new job, Sean contacted me. He'd landed a position with a small cybersecurity firm in Salt Lake City. Good company, good prospects, far away from the smoking crater that used to be Titan Defense. Brady, I wanted to thank you. For what? For showing me what it looks like when someone fights back the right way. What do you mean? You could have made it personal. Could have destroyed Colton publicly. Humiliated him, ruined his life for spite. Instead, you just let the system work. Sean, I didn't destroy Colton. Colton destroyed Colton. I just documented the process. Still, that took discipline. Maybe it did, or maybe I was just too old for revenge fantasies. At 48, with a wife recovering from cancer and a daughter finishing college, I didn't have time for drama. I had time for results, and the results spoke for themselves. Colton was gone. My family was secure, and my guardian protocol was now classified at the highest levels of government security. The Pentagon wanted 4 more versions. Megan's tuition was covered through graduate school. Lisa's medical bills were handled through executive health coverage. Every morning when I walk into Apex Cybersecurity, past the American flag and the photos of real heroes, I remember that moment when Colton told me to resign. Best career advice I ever received. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting ahead. Thanks for listening, corporate warriors. Remember, document everything, trust nobody, and always have an exit strategy. Unless you're my old boss, then you're on your own. The real lesson here isn't about revenge. It's about preparation. In corporate America, they'll smile at your experience while planning to steal your life's work, but documentation and legal strategy beat entitlement every single time. At 48, I learned that the most dangerous move isn't fighting back with emotion. It's staying calm, building your case methodically, and letting arrogant people destroy themselves while you watch from a safe distance with a better job offer in your back pocket.